For the people out there who aren't familiar with your personal history, some of it talked about at the beginning of that question, can you tell us what it was like to deal with this struggle early in your life between your sexuality and your religious belief?
Oh, it was very tough because you couldn't talk about homosexuality when I was a kid. And in fact, you know, here in Sydney, young fellas, female homosexuality wasn't illegal, but male homosexuality was, who wanted to meet each other out at night, frequently ended up being grabbed by the police, taken to court, having their jobs ended, disgraced in front of their families, and you know, the suicide rate was horrendous. And I made a commitment, walking up Parramatta Road to Sydney Uni one time. I was 18. If I ever get out of this, I have to speak up for other younger people who'll be finding themselves in this.
What do you mean if you ever get out of this?
If I get out of this business of having a sexuality which could not be talked about. And fortunately, I had, when it came to it, a very supportive family, a wonderful community. I went out 1976 when I made this public, and went and knocked on the neighbours' doors in rural Tasmania, and they were fantastic about it. But then the hate mail, the threats, quoting of St Paul and so on started to pour in, and for years after that I copped it. I couldn't go up the street without a car window be wound down, and the usual epithets about homosexuals would be yelled out across the street. People would come up to my face and put cigarette butts against my hands and so on. Now, one of the great things about my existence is that in this country, a lot of that is gone. I know there's people still suffering, and I liked the idea that people like Paul and I are so free and encouraged and feel so relaxed in this society. We're a country that's grown up a lot. We've got a way to go. But I still remember the people who are in Iran, where a young couple were hung just a few weeks ago because they happened to be a same-sex couple. And I say this to Prime Minister Gillard. I'll be meeting her at the Lodge in a fortnight. She's going to have she's going to put on dinner for Paul and I before we leave. For goodness sake, get behind with the majority of people in Australia and get rid of this discrimination on same-sex couples in marriage. I went to a lovely wedding in the bush in Tasmania on the weekend, Paul and I did, and we were taken by a surprise when the bride just turned and said, "And I'm sorry," to the folk here who can't get married. And the polls all show, most Australians want to. Tony Abbott, come out of last century and get rid of this discrimination. Let's get through it.